What is going on, guys? Welcome to my first movie review of 2024, and we are talking The Beekeeper, the new action movie, the new January action movie starring Jason Statham. Now, when when the trailer started playing in the theater, I thought it looked generic. I thought it didn't look super good. I was just like, okay, it's just another action movie. And it's gotten I don't know, something happened to where as it was going over time, which this trailer was released pretty early before the movie was releasing. I think it was 3 months before the movie released, like typical trailers, but I don't know, this one felt longer. And over the span of that time, I don't know, I just felt more of a following for this movie. Like, a lot of people wanted to see it. And I was really interested in that. I started asking, I was just like, hey, I asked one of the mall cops who works at the mall with me and all that. I was asking him, I was like, hey, why are you really interested in this movie? I was like, I don't know. It just looks like a lot of fun, you know? It's probably going to be a huge hit. I don't know. I'm just looking forward to it. It looks like it could be a lot of fun. And I think I kind of got on that train after a while. I heard a lot of people really excited for this, and I was just like, you know what? I think I'm in, guys. You know what? All right. I still thought it looked generic and all that, and but I don't know. I think I saw the potential in what this could be. Maybe a new kind of John Wick style action movie that spawns a long running franchise or something like that. So I just got out of the movie. What did I think of it? Starting off with the positives of The Beekeeper, Jason Statham is the star of this movie. He is clearly having a lot of fun with this. He does great in all the action scenes. He just commands your attention as an action star, and he does great in the movie. He knows the kind of movie he's in, and he delivers all of his lines the way you kind of want him to be delivered. You know those kind of action one-liners? He's got a couple of those in there, and they're just a lot of fun. It's fun to see an actor lean into that cheesy style of action hero while also playing it dead-faced. Along those same lines, I thought that Jeremy Irons was a blast. He was clearly having the most fun on set, and the most, when I was watching specific performances, he was the one where I was just going, this guy's having fun. I'm having fun watching him. And then along with that, you also have Josh Hutcherson, who is kind of making a comeback in his career. He did really well in the Hunger Games, and he kind of disappeared for a while, and then he came back last year in Five Nights at Freddy's, which I thought he was pretty good in that. And now he's in this movie, to where this is a very different kind of role I've seen him play, and I think he does pretty good in this role. He just very crazy kind of personality, and he does a really good job with that. Kind of like this daddy's money kind of kid who's spoiled and is not very, good at all. And I don't know, his performance was pretty good as that character, and I was just like, man, I can't wait to see you in more roles, Josh. I thought the action all around was great. My audience was packed. I saw this at an early screening, in an IMAX theater, and I am not kidding when I say almost every single seat in that theater was filled. The audience had so much fun with this movie. I think that really helped my experience. This is a movie that I think you will have your best experience with in a theater. I don't think watching it at home will help it very much. I think watching it in a theater will definitely just kind of give you more of the experience that you would go to this movie wanting. But anyways, back to the action. There is this fight scene near the end of the movie in this hallway. It's after this little stairs fight, and it's a one-on-one battle that I thought was the best of the movie, and it's what I'm going to specifically remember this movie for, because I thought it was shot really well. It was the most intense I felt through the movie, and it was fun. It was a fun fight that, for a movie that is just jam-packed with action, and we'll get to that later on. But for a movie that is all about the action, the one in the finale of this movie I liked the most. The best action sequences, it starts with its weakest and then it just gets better and better and better and better as it goes along. Not to say that the first one is a weak action scene. I thought it was pretty good, but it just gets better as it goes. So it was rewarding when we got to the end and I was just like, damn, this was the best that this was all movie. I liked this. I thought it was nicely shot. I think David Ayer did a good job directing this movie. For a directing job, I think he did pretty good. There's some scenes that are lit like almost like how like the John Wick kind of style is lit to where it like looks like a nightclub almost, and it was fun to have those scenes in there because like it really gave the movie like a mood and a style to it that I really enjoyed. I kind of hinted at this earlier on, but the movie really balances its tones pretty nicely. Like it plays it pretty stoic and serious, but I mean, there are lines in this that are clearly like little one-liner lines that are pretty fun. It can be cheesy at points where Jason Statham's talking about, I gotta protect the hive. I've gotta keep the hornets out as best I can. I'm a beekeeper. Like, it's cheesy, it's fun, and it also just does a good job of being cheesy and fun while also playing it stoic and serious.
You are a problem. Goddamn right, I'm a problem.
The runtime really helped this movie because, like, when you have a bunch of, like, movies that are, like, 3 hours long and all that, like, I'm kind of glad you get something shorter like this. Like, I think it was, like, an hour, 45 minutes, this movie. And I don't know. It was just really refreshing to get a movie like that short. It's just like, okay, just a quick little movie, one and done. I like that. This could lead to a pretty solid franchise. I do think this could lead to a mildly successful franchise. But they are going to have to improve a couple things along the way. So with that being said, I'm going to move on to my mixed aspects, which I only have one thing for this, and that's the humor. There are elements in like the dark comedic sides of this to where it is really funny. Like there's this scene where with a stapler that I thought was hilarious. Like every time like that stapler was picked up, I was just like, oh, that's pretty funny. That's cruel, but you got me. But on the same side of that coin, like on the other side, you've got like the lines of dialogue, like the comedy that they try to go for. They have a lot of F-bombs, which I thought was an unnecessary amount. If you ask me, there's a natural way to have a bunch of F-bombs. This didn't feel like it had that. It felt like it was just forcing it to get a laugh. And then the other actual humor that they implement into it didn't really land for me. Now, the audience I was with was laughing a lot, so it worked for them, but it didn't work for me. I don't know. You gotta actually try to make me laugh instead of say this one thing to make me chuckle. Now, that's not gonna get me to laugh. I'll be entertained with what you said if it was well written, but it wasn't. And I think that's where I'm gonna start in my negative section, is that this movie has a very weak script. This movie, like even for an action movie to where you don't specifically need a strong script to carry a movie, it really like kind of stood out in this movie to where like there's like some very, very terribly written scenes that I'm just like, I'm rolling my eyes at. And I'm not kidding. I was rolling my eyes at these scenes in the theater because like, I was just like, you gotta be kidding me, dude. The kind of scamming company that scams Mrs. Parker, which leads to Mr. Clay becoming this, like on this journey to take them out. The name of their website is friendlyfriend.net. If that sounds lazy and suspicious, that's because it is. I saw that written down like, oh yeah, the website that scams people, let's call it Friendly Friend. That sounds pretty ridiculous to me. I don't know if that's just me, but I thought that was just like, come on, you could have put some more effort into that. And then another thing to go along with that, there's this very small exchange of dialogue to where this nameless woman, This nameless woman is talking to Jeremy Irons, and she just goes, like, this line really just made me roll my eyes, because it's at the point in the movie to where they're trying to make you hate the villains, and this felt just very lazily included in, to where she just goes, I wonder what you like more, the money or the power? And he just goes, it's a hard decision. It was just really stupid to me. Like when you have to try that hard to make your villains unlikable, which I thought they were fine. I thought the performances were good, but I thought the villains themselves were okay and decent. But when you try to make them like super unlikable and stuff like that, when that's what you want your audience to feel towards your villains, do it in a more smart and cleverly written way, instead of just going, I wonder what you like more, the money or the power? I wonder. To me, that just felt very lazy, and it felt like you could have done that a lot better. Moving on from the weak script, this movie is very similar to John Wick. And I'm not saying that as in like every action movie has to be compared to John Wick now because it just cracked the code. No, this movie just felt like I said before I saw the movie, it looked very generic to me. And this is kind of the same, like in a sense, the same kind of premise of John Wick. You've got this man who is retired and alone, who starts to have this attachment to this certain being, whether it's a person or an animal, and they end up dying. And he's going on a revenge mission to destroy the corporation and family that is responsible for that. It's beat for beat like the same concept, but with different little tweaks, to where instead of a dog dying, it's an old lady shooting herself because she got all of her money taken away. And it felt like very like, okay, we've seen this before. Along talking about Mr. Clay and his relationship to Miss Parker, I didn't get any of that there. There was these lines of dialogue to where Mr. Clay is talking about Jason Statham's character. His character's name is Mr. Clay. That's who I'm referring to. He keeps going like, she was the only one who really took care of me. She was the only one who made me feel like I was in a family.
She was the only person who ever took care of me.
And I never got that relationship at all, mostly because the movie is really rushing to get to all the action sequences, and it's really like, which I appreciate sort of, because I get that you're an action movie and you want to show off all your action, but your movie would work better if you had these character moments, and this movie is lacking a lot of that, especially with Miss Parker. Like, as soon as she's introduced, she's just like, you really made this place better, haven't you? Then she walks away, a problem with her computer, she gets all of her money taken away, and she kills herself. And that's the only kind of interaction we ever get with those two. We get that one scene, and we're supposed to feel super attached to their relationship and torn down and broken. Like, yes, we feel sad that all of her money was taken away and she killed herself, but I don't feel any sort of connection between those two outside of what you've told me. And that's a big problem with this movie, is that it, in the writing stuff, like in the way it's written, it's much more telling you and not showing you. And especially with that relationship, that's where I felt it the most. Jason Statham felt like a side character in his movie. Like 90% of his scenes are action sequences, and then like the other 10% is him just like on his own, like on a phone or something like that. He's not interacting with any other character except for Miss Parker, who kills herself very early on in the movie. So he has nobody to really interact with, so he feels like almost like a villain, because you're spending most of your time with the actual antagonists and the side characters, and it didn't work very well. Like, I liked Jason Statham's character and performance, but I wish we had gotten a more clear, like, okay, we're following this guy. It didn't feel like we were following him. It felt like we were cutting back and forth to a lot of stuff. Speaking of cutting back to a lot of stuff, I really didn't like the plot with, like, the subplot with the cops. Like, I didn't really enjoy that, like, at all. I feel like that could be completely cut out of the film, and the runtime could have even worked. Like, we could have done without that storyline entirely, and we could have added some more scenes with Mrs. Parker and all that, and establishing more of a relationship and having more of a conflict for Mr. Gray. Like, no, Mr. Clay. Sorry. Establishing more of a conflict for Mr. Clay. That would have made the movie more intriguing, like maybe a bit more tension in there. That would have made it a bit more satisfying, but it didn't take that route, and instead it went on this little cop subplot. And I felt like that could have been taken out of the movie entirely, and not a lot of it would change. And finally, the ending to this movie was so sudden. Like it was incredible. Like, I was sitting down. This was the ending was like one of my favorite, like the finale was just one of my favorite parts. I was just watching, and it gets no crescendo. Nothing. Like, no like dramatic music building up to the credits. No, nothing. It just fades out, cuts to credits. Like, and I'm just like, it's not even the ones where it's like the flashy ones. It's the one where it's just scrolling up. Like, it cut to those credits immediately, and I was just like, what? Really? Really? It just ended that suddenly. Like, conflict gets immediately resolved, and then immediate credits right after that. And I was just like, really no sort of epilogue, no crescendo to the movie. It just popped right here. Okay. And it made me think, like, even like as I was criticizing the writing as much as I have, it made me think they just wanted to end the movie. Like, they were like really passionate about writing all the way up to here, but they didn't know how to end it, so they were just like, well, what if we just cut it right there? I like that idea. Let's just do that. And it felt really sudden to me, and I just didn't like it. But overall, guys, I had a lot of fun with this. It's not gonna be like one of my favorites of the year. It's gonna be nowhere close, considering the movies coming out this year, but I had fun with it. It was solid. It was good. Not great, but it was fun. I think the best way you'll experience this movie is in the theaters. And I feel like at home, you'd be a bit harsher on it, and the criticisms that I just threw it at, you'd probably be a lot harsher on. But I enjoyed my time at the theater. It's going to be a huge hit. Like, the fact that it was an early screening and there was like a mountain of people there, it's going to make a bunch of money. And I'm happy for it, even though I wish it could have been done significantly better. But I had a fun time at the movies. It was good enough for me. Well, that's going to be it for me today. That's going to be my thoughts on The Beekeeper. What did you think about The Beekeeper? Comment that down below. I'm going to be planning to do a bunch of these 2024 reviews. I filmed a most anticipated list of 2024 that should be coming out pretty soon. But that's all I got for y'all. If y'all enjoyed the video, I'm happy. Y'all have a good night.